a man walks into a bar and notices his friend sitting alone staring at a tiny man on the table playing the piano. "Wow, look how small he is, where did you get him?" says the man. "Oh, well, there's this genie round the back of bar, and he grants you whatever wish you want." Sure enough, the man goes round the back of the bar and there sits a genie. "You grant wishes, right?" "Yes," replies the genie. "I'd like $1,000,000. Then, out of nowhere, 1,000,000 ducks appear, and waddle behind the annoyed man as he goes back into the bar. "Look, that genie gave me ducks instead of bucks," his friend sitting at the table replies. "Well, yeah, do you really think I asked for a 12-inch pianist?" This guy walks into a bar with his golden retriever. "Hey, can I get a drink on the house if my dog talks for you?" "Dogs can't talk, pal. But if you can prove to me yours does, I'll give you a drink. If not, I get to punch you in the nose." "Okay," says the guy. He turns to his dog. "Okay, fella. Tell me what is on top of your doghouse." "Roof." The man turns and smiles at the bartender. "That ain't talking. Any dog can bark. Okay, boy. Tell me, how does sandpaper feel?" "Rough." "What are you trying to pull, mister?" Okay, says the man. "One more question, please." "Okay, buddy, tell me, who is the greatest ball player who ever lived?" "Ruth." The bartender beats the heck out of the guy and throws him onto the sidewalk outside of the bar, then throws the dog out next to him. The dog stands up and looks at the guy. "Geez. Do you think I shoulda said DiMaggio?" Then, out of nowhere, 1,000,000 ducks appear, and waddle behind the annoyed man as he goes back into the bar. "Look, that genie gave me ducks instead of bucks," his friend sitting at the table replies. "Well, yeah, do you really think I asked for a 12-inch pianist?" John was sitting outside his local pub one day, enjoying a quiet pint and generally feeling good about himself, when a nun suddenly appears at his table and starts decrying the evils of drink. "You should be ashamed of yourself, young man. Drinking is a sin. Alcohol is the blood of the devil." Now John gets pretty annoyed about this, and goes on the offensive. "How do you know this, sister? My mother superior told me so." "But have you ever had a drink yourself? How can you be sure that what you are saying is right?" "Don't be ridiculous, of course I have never taken alcohol myself." "Then let me buy you a drink. If you still believe afterwards that it is evil, I will give up drink for life." "How could I, a nun, sit outside this public house drinking?" "I'll get the barman to put it in a teacup for you, then no one will ever know." The nun reluctantly agrees, so John goes inside to the bar. "Another pint for me, and a triple vodka on the rocks." Then he lowers his voice and says to the barman, "And could you put the vodka in a teacup?" "Oh no. It's not that nun again, is it?" On New Year's Eve, Marilyn stood up in the local pub and said that it was time to get ready. At the stroke of midnight, she wanted every husband to be standing next to the one person who made his life worth living. Well, it was kind of embarrassing. As the clock struck, the bartender was almost crushed to death. "It was just a simple misunderstanding, Your Honor," testified the man charged with indecent exposure. "Explain that statement," demanded the judge. "Well, you see, this girl and I were drinking in a bar and she asked me what I wanted most in a woman. So I showed her." A man was drinking at a bar and the bartender came over to tell him he had a visitor waiting for him outside the bar. He had just bought another large beer and he didn't want anyone to drink it. So, he wrote a little sign on a piece of paper and left it by his beer that said, "I spit in my beer." When he returned to his bar stool there was another note beside his beer, "I spit in your beer too." Edward walks out of a bar, stumbling back and forth with a key in his hand. A cop on the beat sees him and approaches. "Can I help you, fella?" asks the cop. "Yes, somebody stole my car," Edward replies. The cop asks, "Okay, where was your car the last time you saw it?" "It was at the end of this key," Edward replies. At this point the cop looks down to see that Edward's P***ness is hanging out of his trousers. The cop asks Edward, "Hey buddy, are you aware that you're exposing yourself?" Edward looks down sadly and moans, "Oh God, they got Julie too." A guy walks into a bar carrying a pair of jumper cables. He sets them down on the bar. And then the bartender said, "Now don't you start anything." A man leaves a bar, gets into his car and drives away. A mile down the road, he's stopped by a police officer. The officer walked up to the driver's side window holding a breathalyzer and said, "Good evening, sir. We're testing for drunk driving. Would you please blow into this machine?" The man says, "Sorry officer, but I can't do that. I have asthma. If I blow in that machine, I will get out of air." "Okay, fine. I need you to come down to the station to give a blood sample," said the officer. "I can't do that. I have anemia and if you stick a needle in me I will bleed to death." "Well, then we need a urine sample." "I'm sorry officer, I can't do that either. I am also a diabetic. If I do that I'll get really low blood sugar." "All right, then you'll have to get out and walk 5 yards along this white line." "I can't do that either, officer." The officer was getting irritated. "And why not?" "Because I'm dead drunk." A guy was meeting a friend in a bar, and as he walked in he noticed 2 pretty girls looking at him. He heard one girl say to the other, "9." Feeling pleased with himself, he swaggered over to his buddy at the bar and told him that the girl in the corner had just rated him a 9 out of 10. "Sorry to spoil your evening," said his friend, "but when I walked in they were speaking German, 2 programmers after work, talking in a pub. You will never believe me when I tell you what happened to me yesterday. I met a very nice blonde in a bar." "And what did you do?" "I invited her to my place, we had some drinks and then the girl asked me to undress her." "Are you kidding me?" "And what did you do then?" "I got her blouse and her dress off and then I got her to sit on my office, right next to my new laptop." "Oh, you got a new laptop? What model and what are its specifications?" A guy goes up to this girl in a bar and says, "Would you like to dance?" The girl says, "I don't like this song, but even if I did, I wouldn't dance with you." The guy says, "I'm sorry, you must have misunderstood me, I said you look fat in those pants." A man in a bar had a couple of beers, and the bartender told him he owed $4. "But I paid, don't you remember?" said the customer. "Okay," said the bartender. "If you say you paid, you did." The man then went outside and told a friend that the bartender couldn't keep track of his customers' bills. The second man then rushed in and ordered a beer. When it came time to pay he pulled the same stunt. The barkeep replied, "If you say you paid, I'll take your word for it." Soon the customer went into the street, saw an old friend, and told him how to get free drinks. The man hurried into the bar and began to drink highballs when, suddenly, the bartender leaned over and said, "You know, a funny thing happened in here tonight." 2 men were drinking beer, neither paid and both claimed that they did. The next guy who tries that is going to get punched right in the nose. Don't bother me with your troubles, the final patron responded. Just give me my change and I'll be on my way. A guy walks into a bar and sees a dog lying in the corner licking his balls. He turns to the bartender and says, "Boy, I wish I could do that." The bartender replies, "You'd better try petting him first." A horse walks into a bar. He walks up to the bartender and says, "Give me a beer." The bartender is stunned, so he heads to the back of the bar to speak with the owner. "Hey boss," he says, "there's a horse in the bar asking for a beer." The bar owner pauses for a second, then replies, "Well then give him one, but charge him double. Horses don't know the price of beer." So the bartender heads back out front and hands the horse a beer. "You know," says the barkeep, "we don't get many horses around here." To which the horse replies, "At these prices I'm not surprised." A good-looking woman walks into a bar wearing a tube top. She raises her hand to signal the bartender for a beer, revealing that she does not shave her armpits. Meanwhile, a sloppy drunk on the other side of the bar signals the bartender, "Buy that ballerina over there a drink on me." The bartender replies, "What makes you think she's a ballerina?" "Because," answers the drunken man, "any chick that can lift her leg that high has got to be a ballerina." A guy's talking to a girl in a bar. He says, "What's your name?" She says, "Carmen." He says, "That's a nice name. Who named you, your mother?" She says, "No, I named myself." He says, "Why Carmen?" She says, "Because I like cars and I like men." "What's your name?" He says, "Beer fuck." Juan was a Mexican man riding his bike to go across the American border. He was holding 2 bags full of sand on his back. As soon as he got to the border, the guard stopped him and asked what was in the bags. Juan replies, "Sand." The guard told him that they would see about that and took the bags in to inspect them. He looked through to see if there were drugs, or if they were actually sand, but it was 100% sand. The guard was confused, but knew he had no proof that Juan was doing anything wrong, so he put the sand in new bags, hefted them onto Juan's back and let him cross. This same thing happened every day for a few months, until one day, 6 months later, Juan didn't come. After a few weeks, the guard had a day off, so he went to a local bar. He saw Juan sitting on a table on his own drinking beer, so he went over to him. "Hey man, I know you're snuggling something in. I just want to know, between you and me, I promise I won't get you into trouble, what are you snuggling?" Juan looked at him for a second, drank his beer, then said, "Bicycles."